right, guys, welcome back to another episode. Today, we're going to talk about another Mustang. I've showed you guys my other two Mustangs. You guys have met Myrtle. You've met Maxine. You guys all know Maxine, the two Fox bodies. This one's been chilling in the background. This is actually, I guess, the first Mustang that kind of started the trend of the fleet we got going on here. This is Ruby, my 2000 model Mustang. If you guys aren't familiar, this is a New Edge Mustang. 99 to 04 cars are called a New Edge. If you're not in the Mustang community, I don't expect you guys to know all those nerdy facts. But so if you see me reference it being a New Edge just out of natural, that's what I'm talking about. Anyway, so 2000 model Mustang GT, we call her Ruby. Once again, this is going to get into another saved a car story. As you can tell, that's kind of our trend. Anyway, so I got this car. It's been, I think, around 2016. I've been digging up some old pictures to drop in here. There's going to be a lot of picture drops and stuff in this video, and I might get a little long-winded because we're going to introduce you to Ruby and what we got going on. So, got this car years ago, back in, I'm pretty sure, 2016. I actually, ironic story, a friend of mine, car community guy, Mustang guy, had a Fox body. Needed an engine put in it. It was a convertible 91 car with a Vortec on it, pretty hot setup, and he was driving in the rain, sucked up some water, thought he just pushed the rear main seal out. I was like, okay, cool. And I was like, okay, maybe. Then he tells me he pulls the plugs out of it and it pumps water out, put the plugs back in it, got the car running, but it's pouring all out the back of the engine now. He's like, how would you like to push the rear main seal? And I'm just like, okay, maybe, best case scenario. So anyways, pull it in here in the garage, pulling this thing apart, pop the trans out of it. And I'm looking up, I'm looking around the rear main. Yeah, it's wet, everything's wet, but it's like higher. And I'm like, looking, I'm kind of cleaning this. It's not a super clean car. It's been together for a while, so there's some dirt and grime and stuff back there. I'm digging off and I'm looking. I vividly remember, I'm like, that looks like a crack. But I'm thinking, oh no, maybe it's just casting flash, whatever. So no, get it clean, really good to brake cleaner. This thing is cracked from up here in the lifter valley all the way down to the rear main, down to the bottom. I'm like, oh brother, we got problems. So he's like, all right, man, let's pull it apart and see what I did. I'm like, all right, I'm pretty sure when you hydrolocked it, it's just too much cylinder pressure. Stock block couldn't handle it. Long story short, it had a crack all the way around. A lot of you small block Ford guys will probably be like, yep, seen that one before, done that one. Stock block stuff. It split it all the way around. It still ran. Actually, it's funny enough, I drove the car to my house because I thought it was just a rear main seal. He lives close to us. I turned onto my road and I was like, man, this thing's pretty peppy. And I gave it a little second, third gear stab. And I was like, yeah, this thing runs pretty good. Little do I know, I'm driving it with the two-piece block. Anyways, that's new mod, two-piece block. So fast forward, he's like, all right, man, whatever. We got to do this and that. He decides what he wants to do to put an engine in it. We're talking. He's like, hey, I've got this New Edge car I really need to get rid of. At the time, he thought it was a Roush car, full-blown Roush car. It had a full Roush body kit on it. He's like, hey, I've got this New Edge car. It doesn't have an engine. It's been sitting for like 9 years. You want to do some trading? And he already knows the deal with me, unfortunately. I love to do some trading. I was like, yeah, man, I'm interested. Let me come look at the car. I'm actually looking for a kind of a project. I was getting to a spot where any cars we had before were just our daily drivers or whatever, Mustangs and what that we played with. And I was looking for kind of my first real like project car. Here she is. So this car, we went up trading. I put an engine in his car. It went on. He gave me this car as basically a roller. The transmission was in the trunk, no engine, but he sort of gave me a running driving 02 Crown Vic for the engine. It actually worked out pretty good because he wanted the transmission back. I didn't want that automatic. And he was like, hey, can I have the car back for scrap metal? Sure. I plucked the engine out of it, all the harness, everything that I think I can use as donor to get that in the Mustang because I didn't have anything. I didn't have a harness. I didn't have an intake. So I'm trying to see what all I can use, this and that, scavenge everything I can out of the Crown Vic, give him the car back. All right, so now here we go. We're starting to put Ruby together. I'm excited. As I've told you guys before, if you watch my previous videos, I've been a Ford tech for a while. Big fan of the Mod Motor platform. If you guys aren't familiar with the Mod Motor, that's the 4.6 liter engine family, 4.6 liter, 5.4 overhead cam Ford engine family. They call them modular engines, Mod Motor for short. So I've always been a big fan of it. Started working at Ford dealer in 2000, so I immediately got my hands on 4.6s because these things are under warranty, which is, wow, that's crazy to think about now, isn't it, kid?
Yeah.
I'm doing warranty work on these things. Wow, okay. Anyways, no, these cars were brand new. I actually started at Ford dealer in June of 2000. This is a 2000. Kind of cool story. All comes together. It's fate. Anyway, so I'm excited. I'm getting to put my first little 4.6 together. Get the engine out of the Crown Vic. Let me sit down. Like I said, I was getting put my first little 4.6 together, okay? Pulled the engine out of the Crown Vic. I immediately figured out and looked. He told me, first of all, he said that it was using some water. I'm like, okay, no big deal. Radiator hose, intakes are bad to break on. I fully expected it'd have a cracked intake, plastic intake manifold, super popular. No big deal. Well, it had a blown head gasket. It was drinking some water. So I was like, okay, no big deal. I was kind of bummed to me at the time because I was trying to like get the engine out of the Crown Vic into the car, get my car running. Like I was so pumped, you know, because the car came with some cool stuff. It came with almost everything else that I needed to put it back together. It was just, had been sitting a long time, very disassembled. So, okay, all right. So now what are we going to do? No big deal. Pull it off, put a set of head gaskets on it. Well, I pulled the heads off. This is, like I said, this is kind of my first playing with a car, hot rod that's not my daily driver, that I'm not trying to modify and I got to drive to work Monday. So I've got some time. I got the heads off and I'm like, you know what? I think looking around, this is years ago, and I'm like, I think I can clean these heads up a good bit, right? Let me try. I've always wanted to do kind of some self-porting. See, I've seen a lot of people do it, and it really makes a lot of difference. If you don't have money to buy big money cylinder heads, and actually if you guys are familiar with 4.6 stuff, like some of the upper level cylinder heads you can buy are a set of ported stock heads, like Modular, Powerhouse, Cushman Motorsports, Jim Cushman. They all do a lot of high level, heavily ported two valve stuff. So I started playing with my cylinder heads. We had a guy named David England that did our machine work at the Ford dealer, and I got talking to him, gave him the heads. While I had them off, he did like a aggressive valve job on it, a really nice valve job. You know, I guess what we used to call back in the day a 3-angle valve job. I was never like super well versed on that and like the difference that it made doing a really quality valve job on a head. So we talked a bit. He always did our stuff at Ford, so he was familiar with, not that he was like a mod motor guy, but he just from doing our Ford stuff, he was pretty well versed and I guess had the machinery to do modular head stuff. So we got him to do all that stuff. I get it back. I cleaned up I think I have some I'm pretty sure I have some good pictures of me getting there and hogging out with the cartridge rolls and everything, really looking like I know what I'm doing when I really had no idea what I was doing. I just know that air will take the path of least resistance, but also there's some wizardry with the air turning as it goes behind the valve, so you don't want to mess up that. And you know, the engineers at Ford are probably way smarter than I am, so I didn't reshape the wheel or anything. I just really opened the ports up. I know I'm boring you guys to death about this, but when I did it, I was kind of excited because it was my first little hot rod engine I'm building. So anyways, opened the ports up, this and that, cleaned the heads up. I was really excited, put my little engine together. Back up just a bit. So I'm going together with the engine, and when I pulled it apart, I kind of noticed that the pistons were nearly flat, which I was used to working on these under warranty, so I kind of was familiar with what a piston looked like. They have a pretty solid dish. I believe, somebody correct me, I believe there's the two different in a non-PI and a PI engine. The non-PI engine had a 11cc, and I think a PI has an 18cc dish, so a little bit deeper piston. Anyways, what I'm getting at is I noticed that I had some pretty shallow pistons. And I was like, immediately oh crap, I got a non-PI engine. And I'm like, no. Okay, hold on. Get the cylinder heads. I'm like, no, okay, we're good. I did some looking around. Like I told you, it came out of an 02 Crown Vic. Kind of a cool story. The guy also, I told you, told me it was drinking water. Well, he also told me that ever since he had this freaking Crown Vic, that spark knocked like crazy unless he put premium fuel in it. And I'm like, that's weird. He said, if he puts 87 in it, he said it spark knocks so bad where it sounds like it's literally detonating. He said, man, it sounds bad. He said, I have to put at least 89 in it and it still doesn't. I'm like, that's weird. So now I'm like, okay. I'm digging around and I find a Jasper reman tag on this engine, which he told me he had paperwork where this car had an engine put in it around 80,000 miles ago. The car had, I think, over 400,000 miles on it. It was an old police car. Anyways, but the engine was a Jasper reman. So got to looking, I kind of got a hot setup free score. I talked about a little bit in my Fox Body video about PI versus non-PI. So here's what I wound up with. Somebody somewhere at the reman or at Jasper, somebody goofed and they put a set of non-PI pistons, or it's probably a complete non-PI short block. During the remanning cycle, they put a set of PI heads on it. Something happened somewhere. I got lucky. I would like to know how many. I bet it's happened before because it's probably something to where a manufacturing thing, they're on back order. It's like, hey, here's pistons. Therefore, they're this part number. They work, whatever. I've seen way crazier stuff from remannings. And I'm not calling out Jasper or whatever. It's good, bad, and different. It worked out fantastic for me because I got a hot little setup. And I was immediately excited because I knew about it a little bit. And so I'm on the internet back in the day, Googling like, okay, like what does this wind up being? Because I wanted to put camshafts in it. Like this was my first thing. Like this is kind of back, few years back, 2016, 2017. I don't know why, I just thought it'd be so cool. Overhead cam engine with some big lumpy camshafts in my little 4.6. So like I'm starting to research, and immediately I'm like, okay, I had some off the shelf cams picked out that I thought was gonna be cool. It's gonna sound great. I'm gonna have this new edge car with all this chop, you know, all these LS boys, they're chopping the house down. Well, hey, us mod motor guys, we wanna play too. Anyways, I know I'm stupid. But so I'm like, okay, well, hey, this kind of complicates things. I don't wanna have to like fly cut these pistons, because I had my heart set on like these big choppy cams, right? But to have my little new edge, it's gonna sound amazing. I'm hitting a cruise night, chopping the block down. Okay, so like I said, Cushman Motorsports Modular Head Shop, they're big 4.6 guys. So I'm on the internet looking. Well, I get in touch with Jim Cushman, email, and at the time he was doing like a custom grind setup, because a lot of people, like, this is not like a set the world on fire. Like, it's not, a lot of people know this little hack, you know, in the 4.6 world. It's kind of a free upgrade. You get some good compression. So he made a set of camshafts that were kind of off the shelf custom grinds that he did for it, and that's what's in this motor. It's his camshafts, his valve screen kit, all that stuff, everything from Cushman Motorsports. And it turned out to be a pretty hot little combo. So it's got, like I said, a little bit of head work, the camshafts, long tube headers. So now I'm ready to put this thing out. I found me some headers on Craigslist back in the day. When Craigslist was pretty hot back in the day, I found this a nice set of BBK long tubes. Actually, no, I didn't. I'm lying. I bought BBK long tubes for this on Craigslist. This car came with a super rusty set of BBK long tubes, and they were in the trunk. Yes, I had owned the car for like probably a week or so, never opened the trunk. I opened the trunk and there was a set of BBK long tubes in there. The radiator was in there, and I was like, you idiot, why did you not open the trunk 4 or 5 days ago? Anyways, so I got my little hot rod engine together, man, I'm getting pumped. I'm like, all right, cool, we're getting our engine together. So that's kind of the story of how it goes with Ruby. All right, now that I've bored you to death about putting my little hot rod 4.6 motor together, whatever. Now Ruby is running. All right, I got my car running. This car came, like I told you, I originally accepted it as a Roush car. I didn't know if it was or wasn't. I went and looked at the car. I was like, okay, it's got it had the full Roush body kit. If you guys are familiar with these old Roush body kits, they had like the side skirts and the exhaust came out the side. They had a kind of this car didn't have, but they had like a kind of aggressive spoiler. But one thing that kind of that was throwing me off that I didn't think was a Roush car, I guess personally, I thought when these cars were new that when the wheels that came on the Roush cars were super, super rad. Like, they had some really awesome wheels, but this car had a set of 18-inch chrome Cobra Rs, like the early style Cobra Rs. I'm like, I'm not knocking on them, but like, why would you take those gorgeous Roush wheels off if it's a real Roush car? So I kind of went down the rabbit hole. Fast forward, it ain't no Roush. So fine with me, whatever. So I proceed to trade off all of the Roush stuff. It also had one of those crazy like carbon fiber hoods with the huge snorkel deal on it, Stalker hood, I think is what it was. I wasn't into it. I threw it on Craigslist one morning, a Saturday morning, threw the crazy carbon fiber hood on Craigslist, will trade for any color stock hood. Within minutes, this kid with the silver Mustang is blowing me up. I will drive. He drove from like an hour away. I'm like, brother, come on. He's like, you got tools to swap. And I was like, I'll have it off in the yard when you get here. So he gets here. We take his car, hood off of his car, bolt it on mine. I put the carbon fiber on his, send it down the road. That probably made his day for years. So anyway, proceed to unroush it some. I left the Roush front bumper. It's kind of got a cool lip on it and the round fog lights. I dig that. So then she was several different colors. Insert clip here. I'm ready to paint the car. I didn't have any freaking money. I wanted to paint the car. I was driving it around. I was really enjoying it. It sounded good. And the car ran really good. Immediately, I was like, whoa, this thing runs really good. And I'd already had it. Yes, at that point, we have a really local shop, Injected Engineering. You guys can look them up. They used to be really well-versed in mod motor stuff. Well, had it all together, took it to them. They tuned the car. The car made really impressive power. Over 300 horsepower to the tires. Actually, if I remember it right, I can pull the email. It's 341 horsepower to the tires, which I was mind blown. I didn't think that, and I started looking around. I was like, okay, wow. And I talking to the owner there, and he's like, yeah. He said, I've seen a lot of these ported head, non-PI to PI combos, ported head, good camshafts make well into 300 horsepower. I was like, wow, I did not expect that, because let's remember, these cars, 904 Mustangs came with 260 horsepower at the flywheel. So I get this dyno sheet, and he's got my car right out front of the door. Sorry, I'm going a little tangent here about this. I was a cool kid nerding out. I walk up, Injected Engineering, got my car tuned, got my little hot rod tuned. He's got it backed up the door, and it sounds so good now because he's got it idle dialed in and stuff, and it is chopping hard. We go in there and talk to him, and I kind of know him. He used to work, he was a Ford tech also, and he is like, we were talking, I was paying the bill, whatever, and I'm like, what did it make? You know? And he's like, oh, actually, he's like, and he handed me the sheet, and I was like, no, what? So anyways, yeah, car makes some pretty cool, good little power. So let's fast forward and talk about, so I'm ripping this thing around, cruising it. I'm really just enjoying it. but I'm sick of it being, it was half the car. The car had been hit at one point in time, and I think that quarter panel was painted, the bumper was painted, the rest of the car was faded. If you guys are familiar with this color, I think it's Red Fire. It was a triple stage color, and they faded to silver like 4 or 5 years after they were built. So it was all faded out, had some yellow side skirts. Anyways, I wanted the car painted. I had no money. I went to the Mako, said, hey man, I'd like to get my car painted. I just want it one color. I don't have no crazy high expectations. The guy over there, he's a local Mako guy, he said, if you take the car apart, I'll do you a really nice paint job. There we go. $550 later, we got a pretty stinking nice paint job. And this car's been painted since, I think, 2017. And I know if you guys do paint and body, you can walk up on it and pick it apart and turn your nose up at it, and that's all good, but I absolutely love it. All right, I'll give you guys a quick tour of the inside of this thing. It had, when I got the car, it was actually one of the selling points. I went and looked at the car, and it had this really super nice, clean, tan interior. If you're all familiar with these cars, the interior just does not hold up. They're about like an early Fox or worse. The interior they just didn't hold up. People drove the crap out of them. So they warned. But this car had a cool tan interior. I added the tan Fox body halos. I thought that was a nice little look. Yeah, it's just a really nice Survivor stock interior, and that's my jam. I love just like clean interiors. I don't go crazy. Eventually, as you can see, the theme this car's headed, race car-ish, it's probably going to get some kind of nice set of racing seats or something, because I'm kind of ready, and we're about to get into that. I'm ready to kind of turn this thing loose and turn it up, and we got some cool things we're about to do to it. So let me give you a quick look under the hood. We'll get under a skirt and talk about what we're about to do to this thing. All right, let's look under the hood of this thing. It looks basically like your normal Mustang GT. When I put this engine together, and I'm regretful now, I'm sure we already showed you pictures. I should have said something about it. I thought it was gonna be so cool. I painted the whole engine black. I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be cool. Crown Vic engine, little hot rod engine. I'm gonna paint the whole thing black. And now, fast forward, I hate it. I like how I did my Fox body engine. Everything that was aluminum on it, I kind of left it aluminum, and it just turned out clean. It's nothing showroom crazy, but you guys take a look at that. I told you about it before. Yeah, I just kind of like how this one turned out. I like how, yeah. Looking back now, I wish I wouldn't have painted this engine over here solid black, because it doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing. But like, as I'm going to continue to tell you, she's been through some iterations. She just slowly turned into race car on me, and I'm not mad about it. So I've had the bug. We've been taking it to the track. It's made some pretty good licks, whatnot. So let's get on up under it. This is just basic run-of-the-mill stuff. I know it's not crazy impressive to look at. I agree. It is what it is. Looks like your buddy's 4.6 and his new Edge down the road. No big deal. I get it. I can also kind of like that. Like, I'm not a big thrills and frills, whatever, like pretty them up, and I'm part kind of brand fanboy, if you will. Put them together, freaking works. I like good looking stuff too, I'm not getting me wrong, but like, you know, whatever. Let's get up under it, and it's got some kind of cool stuff underneath it, and we'll get it up on the rack and talk some more about this thing. First, before we get under it, we'll talk about the wheel and tire setup, because I know a lot of people are probably going to ask about the wheel and tire setup. It's got a kind of a cool stance. Bogart's 275 ET Streets on the back. We keep them on her all the time. Ruby keep them things on her. So, yes, it stays on ET Streets. The Bogarts, once again, traded into them. They're really nice wheels. They're crazy lightweight. The front wheels are not Bogarts. They are Jegs brand wheels that I got some nice center caps for. I found them. They were super cheap. I got the whole set of Bogarts when I got these wheels. I did some trading with, once again, Robbie. Worked on his Lightning a while back. He had these Bogarts on a Fox, took them off, didn't want them. We did some trading out when he got this Lightning. It had 15-inch fronts also. Well, as you can see, the car has Cobra brakes on the front. Will not clear a 15-inch wheel. So I was like, well, dang, okay. I'd already had a whole set of these. There's actually a poster right there of the car on a whole set of these Jegs wheels in black. So got on the internet, and I was like, hey, yeah, those will work great. They're super cheap. I already had the tires. Anyway, so we got a really cool set of wheels and tires. Got a cool stance, nice set of polished wheels. They don't match perfectly, but I think it looks pretty dang cool. Moving on. Underneath the front of the car, kind of your standard Mustang upgrade front suspension if you're gonna start doing some track stuff. So I started taking it to the track with the stock K-member, stock control arms, just traditional springs. It's actually on some lowering springs. I wound up doing some work on the same Fox body that I got the engine from. We were putting it together. He decided he wanted to put a tubular K, control arms and stuff on the cars. They're going together, and he's like, hey man, if you'll swap this stuff out while you're doing it, I'm going to order me a K-member. If you'll swap it out while you're putting the engine, I'll order you one for your car. I'm like, bet. So I got a QA1 tubular K-member, lower control arms. I had to buy the coilover kit. It's on a set of just your basic Lakewood 9010s and 5050s in the back. I know that's the old school hot Mustang setup. If any of you old school Mustang drag racers, y'all all know about the 9010s and 5050s. I know, that's not ideal. I'm kind of just like I said, she's kind of just growing into a race car, and we're not getting mad at her for it. So however it transpires. So it's on a 12-inch, 200-pound spring in the front, which I want to go and talk about it now because we're about to do some upgrades. I want to go to a 12-150 or whatever. The car separates pretty good. I like that really, when you see those cars that are really soft in the front, like it really accelerates so you can really get some RPM to get the 60-foot times down. That's what I really want to go back to the track and chop down, because this car's 60-footed okay, but nothing to write home about. I want to get aggressive with it. So moving on, like I said, long tube headers, H-pipe, tubular weld-in subframe connectors, and let's talk about this. My absolute favorite muffler in the whole world. You got to touch them really nice. These things are special. So I know I'm a retard, but these mufflers, Mac mufflers, if anybody knows about the Mac mufflers, they are a kind of old school brand, not old school brand. They were really popular when these cars were new. And one reason I love them, I bought a 02 GT, 03 GT brand new at the end of 02. We'll put a picture right here. Dark blue car. I love that car. It was an awesome car. When I got that car, I was obviously at the Ford dealer. So brand new car, working at the Ford place, all these used cars were getting traded in, and new used cars, say a couple-year-old Mustang gets traded in, it's got a cold air intake on it. Well, they want to do a quality inspection on it. Well, it can't have any modifications. What I'm getting at is I basically modded my car through the used car department, because the car would come in, like, hey, well, we can't pass inspection on this because it's got this or this. I'm like, well, I've got this part, I'll take it off my car if we can swap it out. And they were like, hey, we don't got to buy parts. So anyways, this used car came in back in the day, and it had Mac equal length shorties, a Mac Pro Chamber H-pipe, and a Mac full catback. Had no cats. I offered my stuff up. Used car manager said, hook us up. I put all that on that car, and to this day, I think that was the best sounding car I ever had. I love the way that car sounded. I know Maddie grew up in the back seat of that car. It was really cool. So I got my Mac mufflers on here. We're about to do some things. I want to talk to you in a minute, but some of you guys might be familiar with this. Moving on to the rear. This is an old school Steeda, like poor man's anti-roll is what we used to call them in the Mustang world. I got it years ago. I bought it from somebody. I actually this is a really old, I think this is for a Fox body. But that's all I got for now. So let's talk about what we're about to do. So like I said, kind of got to know on Ruby. It's our little race car. And if we move, I want to go ahead and let you know too, like moving forward, any kind of live action, shenanigans, stuff, this will probably be our little flagship car. Those cars are cool. We're cruising around, whatever, going to the track, whatever. Ruby's our girl. So we're about to do, in the rear suspension, just got your standard upper and lower kind of box control arms with urethane. So I'm ready to go ahead, and like the front, I'm ready to go ahead and full-blown drag race in the rear. This is a good upgrade. This car has a pretty decent rear suspension. For this is kind of like a great stock street, like your first upgrades on your Mustang, getting it to hook better. Well, I'm ready to do an upper torque box kit and get race lowers. I've got some Eibach drag springs, and I've got a set of adjustable race lower control arms. I need to get some uppers, and yeah, she's gonna grow into a race car. All right, guys, so we've showed you all around our little girl, Ruby. She's a pretty cool car. She is quite the hot rod. Really enjoy this car. So she turned a race car. I've always wanted this car to run a certain number at the track. We have a local 8th mile track, Paradise Drag Strip, that actually Mike Finnegan frequents a lot. It's pretty cool. Fanboy stuff up there. He's always there. He takes his cars up there. It's an awesome little local old school track. So I've wanted this car to run an 8th mile number for the longest time with my little mod motor. So what we did, we called Harry. We got 2 of the big ones.
I need one of these, one of the big ones. Actually, let's make it 2. And Harry, I need it by tonight.
So that's kind of what this whole video is leading up to. We kind of showed you about the car. I'm ready to pour it to it. I'm ready to finish this nitrous install. The bottle's just mounted. So we're going to bring you guys back. Stay tuned for next video on Ruby. I've got a whole nitrous kit lined out that I pieced together and I put together that I think I can make this thing run a pretty respectable freaking number. I always wanted to run a 6-second 8th mile car, because back in the day when I was in like high school and we'd go to the drag strip, hang out on the weekends, or after high school when I was younger, the car ran 6s and 8s. It was like, oh my Lord. And kind of still to the day, like if you're at your local drag strip, 6 seconds is kind of like breaking that barrier in the 8th. We're like, all right, man, your junk's pretty fast now. If you show up there, you run some 680s, 690s even, it's like, all right, man, his junk run pretty good, So in my head, that's kind of always what I thought. I don't have the money to go 3-second 8 miles and make 10,000 horsepower with my Coyote and whatever. And I don't even know that I don't think I even care for that, because that sounds like a whole mess of worms and a whole maintenance schedule and a whole bunch of broken parts and just revolving door. So anyways, we're going to put some nitrous on the thing. I think with my amateurish tuning abilities that I've learned over getting this car going and playing with this car over the years and kind of just learning and taking other people's ideas, I think I can tune the car, keep the motor alive with a pretty healthy shot. Like I don't want to, obviously this is for the video, guys, sorry. I don't want to put no 7,500 shot on this thing. I think it can handle it. I think with the right tuning, I can make one live with a solid, healthy shot of nitrous. And I think that this car can run a 699.999 in the 8th, and I will be pumped. I might get out and run circles around the car. Anyways, so you kind of see where we're going with the thing. Now that I've really bored you to death, talked over everything, let's crank the thing up, take it down the road, and see what she's all about. Let you hear it and see what a new Edge Mustang with some, you know, kind of, we'll say, middle of the road street car mod. She's on the verge of where it's like, all right, you started modding your street car enough to where it's starting to kind of drive worse, and it's like a race car. It's like, which way do I go? Which way do I go? It's like, man, let's do some race car stuff. I still feel a lot of people are like, oh no, man, it's a nice car, blah blah. I'm like, well, I think it could be a nice race car. I'm not talking about like we're going to go beat the crap out of it and it's going to be some set the world on fire race car, but I do want to get back into going to the track with it. I've dabbled in a different kind of racing over the years. We used years ago, talking about our daily driver Mustang hot rods back in the day. We used to do a lot of SCCA stuff, kind of autocross, road racing stuff. When Maddie was super little, we used to go to the track, parking lot, set up autocross events and stuff, and that was super cool. So I've done a little bit of motorsport stuff, but I really love going drag racing. It's super cool. We have a great track. I used to drive this thing to Paradise. I drove it several times there, make passes all night, drive her back home. It's about a 35-minute drive or so. Get to pass Buc-ee's on the way. Everybody loves Buc-ee's. Y'all know the deal. All right, let me get this buttoned up, and we'll see y'all on the road in a minute. All right, let's take old Ruby down the road. See how she does. This car drives so good. It's a lot of positive feedback from the suspension. You hear a lot of stuff on the road, but the car really rides and drives so good. It's always had kind of like a nice together feel about it. A lot of these cars, I've said it forever, most new Edge Mustangs 9904s look like they lost a freaking bar fight. Like every one of them. So this car, somehow the interior survived, it's always drove good. It's a quiet car inside, rides good. I just always enjoyed driving the car. Notice you got long Hurst handle in this thing. I don't know if anybody noticed that. I was reluctant forever about these long shift handles. I always thought it looked cool in old cars, but I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Like when I was growing up, like we had little short shifters. We used to call them toggle switches because this is so short, it looked like a freaking toggle switch. But once you get a car that actually runs pretty good and will pin you back a little bit, that third gear feels like you're pulling your shoulders off the seat. So I got this big long Hurst handle, and you can roll these babies with this unit. Little no lift shift action for you, 7K RPMs. Transmission don't care. Hey, that one was just for everybody with their silly water comments. One thing I did forget to touch on this car when I had it on the rack is this does have a set of 31 spline axles. I think they're Summit. I was gonna say they're Motors. In my head I was thinking they're Motors, but I think they're like Summit house brand 31 spline upgrade, but it does have an Auburn Pro locker in it. And it also has aluminum drive shaft made with that. This transmission, like I said, was in the trunk when I got the car, and I was told it has some American Powertrain parts, and I could tell it had been a part. I can't speak on it, but I know that transmission has taken abuse after abuse, and it shifts like butter. It's over 7,000 RPMs. It don't care. So why I'm touching on that is this car works really well, and I think it's an attribute to that because it also has a McLeod billet flywheel, King Cobra clutch, like I said, aluminum drive shaft, so like it has all the combination, the little bits and pieces. It really puts power down well, and it works good for what it has to work with. I understand it doesn't make 800 horsepower, and it don't have a Whipple on it. It's not 45 turbos and 2 big blocks or whatever everybody has nowadays, but it's a fun little car, holds its own. It's a blast to drive. It's plenty of power for me to stand, so we're gonna see if I can handle this thing with, another 150, 200 shot of nitrous on it and see what happens. I think it's gonna be fun. Yeah, I just wanna touch on the rear, and I completely forgot to talk about it. It was in the air, sorry. All right, everybody. I think that's about enough about Ruby. We took you down the road, showed you she likes to party. Obviously, I like to freaking party. She likes to party. So seriously, I hope I haven't bored you guys to death too much. I know I've talked a lot about the car. It's kind of been a build breakdown video, if you will. Don't know if anybody cares. I do, because I'm super passionate about this car. Like I said, this car kind of started, what, 6-7 years ago. This that we got going on now, all these cars, and kind of shortly after we got this car done, it's things transpired, and we just have a fleet of pretty rad Fords. So once again, one more rad Ford to show you guys playing with this thing. So moving forward, like I said, we're pouring the nitrous to it. I got some rear suspension changes. I'm ready to step this thing up a little bit. Like, she's kind of growing into her own self, like what she's doing race car wise. So I don't know if it's going to be, I keep saying race car. I mean, race car is a loose term. I don't know if it's going to be race car. I don't know if it's going to be caged out. I don't think I will ever take this interior out and make a race car. I think Maddie would probably kill me also, because it is a nice car. And just now we were ripping it. She's like, Dad, this car's so nice. I'm like, well, I know, you know it. Like, yeah, but whatever. So I don't know, but we're going to play with this thing. I hope you guys enjoy it. It's a cool little car. Like I said, I'm super passionate about it. I love my little new Edge car, my girl Ruby. So once again, like I told you before, I really hope you guys like what we're doing. I'm liking the feedback I'm getting. It seems like people are starting to really like our EcoBoost video. That was kind of a cool one. I wanted to show you some guys working at relatable to stuff, because you guys might drive one of these trucks. A lot of you guys with Mustangs, you probably drive a newer F-150. So hope it's relatable. Please give us a likes, subscribe, all that good stuff. We truly appreciate you, and we're just having a blast with this. Follow us along. We're going to do some more fun stuff. Stick with Ruby. We're going to do some fun stuff with her. She's our party girl. We'll see y'all on the next one. Once again, we really appreciate y'all. Next time.